1,000 years ago in Rome, there was something considered 1,000 times worse than death, becoming a prisoner of the Romans. Crassus ordered thousands of captured soldiers to be nailed alive to crosses, stretching for miles, with no end in sight, until they were all dried up in the hot sun. He wanted to send a message to Spartacus, the leader of the rebellion, that this is what happens when you go against the Romans. Not long before, the slave rebellion had split into two factions due to a disagreement between its leaders. The prudent Spartacus led half of the group to flee abroad, evading the pursuit of the Roman army. Meanwhile, the impulsive Crixus led the other half directly towards Rome, intending to attack it. Ultimately, the rebel army under Crixus was ambushed by Crassus and annihilated. Thousands of warriors became prisoners of Crassus. Crixus died on the spot, and the legendary, undefeated Gallic war god met his end. At this time, Spartacus was completely unaware of these events. One night, Spartacus discovered a few Roman soldiers roasting a rabbit and immediately led an attack. They efficiently killed the soldiers. While clearing the bodies, Spartacus noticed the eagle and dolphin emblems on the soldiers' armor, clearly not belonging to Crassus' troops. He immediately showed the armor to Leda for identification. Once a Roman noblewoman, Leda recognized it as the insignia of Pompey's army, one of the Roman triumvirs. Spartacus was shocked. With most of Rome's main forces engaged in foreign battles, Crassus had seized the opportunity to rise. Now, it seemed one of the main forces, Pompey's army, was returning home, and these soldiers were likely the vanguard sent to the Senate. Spartacus knew trouble was brewing. If Pompey's forces joined with Crassus, the rebels would face certain doom before they could strategize. Nasir hurriedly reported someone on horseback approaching from ahead. Spartacus went to investigate. A cloaked figure was slowly riding towards them, but tumbled off the horse before getting close. They then realized the rider was the exhausted Naedia, holding the severed head of her husband, Crixus. Once Naedia regained consciousness, Spartacus learned the full story of Crixus' sacrifice. Naedia revealed that Crassus spared her life to mock and enrage Spartacus, letting him know the consequences of opposing Rome. Spartacus and Gannicus were devastated by the tragic death of their good brother. Although filled with rage, Spartacus managed to keep his anger in check. The pressing issue now was how to deal with the impending arrival of Pompey's army. A successful union between Pompey and Crassus' forces could be disastrous. Despite having killed a few messengers, Spartacus knew Pompey would keep sending more. After much thought, Spartacus devised a plan. Soon, a guard in the Roman camp reported to Crassus that a messenger from Pompey had arrived. Crassus immediately summoned the messenger, who informed him that Pompey was willing to join forces to eliminate the rebel Spartacus. However, as two powerful warlords, neither wanted to venture into the other's camp. They agreed to meet with 20 attendants each at a neutral location between the two armies to discuss strategies against Spartacus. Unbeknownst to Crassus, this messenger was an impostor sent by Spartacus. Caesar, noticing the messenger's nervous demeanor, kept silent about his suspicions, harboring his own plans to use this opportunity to get rid of Tiberius, who had humiliated him. He subtly encouraged Tiberius to represent Crassus in the meeting with Pompey. Tiberius, flattered by Caesar's rare praise, did not suspect a thing to impress. Caesar urged his father to let him meet with Pompey. Eventually, Crassus agreed to this proposal. Was it so short a span? When he stood uncertain, boy, as days have faded from memory, stands a man now, and I wish for him all that he deserves. The next day, Tiberius led a group of soldiers to a temporary camp. Following the messenger, after scouting the area, he instructed his men to attack at any sign of trouble and confidently enter the tent. On it, Pompey. My father sends regret that he couldn't have read his mind. Had hoped to embrace the Emperor himself. And fate delivers me a shadow of the name Crassus. Realizing it was a trap, Tiberius rushed out and attempted to escape on horseback. Unfortunately, it was too late. Spartacus caught Tiberius' cloak, throwing him to the ground. The accompanying soldiers were quickly subdued by the rebels. Seeing the sword in Tiberius' hand, a sword once wielded by Crixus, Spartacus realized that it was Tiberius who had killed Crixus. He immediately ordered them to be brought back to the rebel camp. The sight of Tiberius being captured alive filled everyone with a desire for vengeance, especially Korae, whose eyes were filled with hatred. Spartacus, however, didn't plan to kill Tiberius immediately. Instead, he decided to hold a Roman-style gladiator fight, wanting Tiberius to die in the arena as a way to console the living and pay last respects to the Gallic war god Crixus. Upon learning this, Naedia was deeply moved and remorseful. She admitted her fault in previously instigating Crixus to question Spartacus's authority. Spartacus, harboring no resentment, advised Naedia to live in the present and not dwell on the past. Meanwhile, Crassus, unaware of his son's capture, was contemplating how to deal with the thousands of prisoners. Unexpectedly, Agron did not die but was captured alive by Crassus and became a prisoner, refusing to surrender until his death. Agron was immediately ordered by Crassus to be nailed to a cross. Just then, Pompey's actual messenger arrived at Crassus' camp. Crassus learned that Pompey had not previously sent any messengers and that a troop of Pompey's soldiers had also disappeared without a trace. Realizing he had fallen for Spartacus' trick, Crassus understood that Tiberius must have been captured by Spartacus. Suspecting Caesar might have been aware of the deception, Crassus questioned him, but without evidence. He had to let it go for the time being. Like any father, Crassus was willing to pay any price to save his son. He thought of exchanging the 1,000 prisoners in Agron for Tiberius. Crassus ordered Caesar to be the messenger, essentially sending him to a likely death, as many in the rebel camp held grudges against him. Despite arguing, Caesar had to obey his commander's orders. Before the gladiatorial fight, Korae visited Tiberius. He delusionally thought of escape, begging Korae to release him and promising to help her return to Crassus' side. But how could Korae help a man who raped her?
Know that I shall return at nightfall. When it is your time to die, a thing I long to lay eyes upon.